So Harish, shall we start? Now it's already 3. We have 37 participants joined in.
Okay, how many registrations did we have total?
We received around 72.
Okay. All right.
Now we have 40 joined in.
Can we start, Vishnu?
Yes, Harish, we can start with an introduction.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining this presentation or session today. Greetings from the member focus group of JTech. So, as you all know, the member focus group is actually trying to do a set of activities which are useful for the member community. So, these sessions are part of that. I think this is the 5th session that we're doing in the series. As you all know, talent is one of the key challenges that we are facing in the post-pandemic era, and that's why this session becomes more and more relevant. So this is actually about the future of fresher hiring from Trinity Skillworks. So I understand Trinity Skillworks is already working with some of our members with their various onboarding programs. So we have Subhash from Trinity Skillworks Private Limited, who's with us today, who's going to do the session for us. So welcome, Subhash, and
thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you, Harish. Good afternoon, everyone. And first up, thanks to Vishnu, Harish, and others in GTech for an initiative like this, and also for meet all of you to discuss about the future of freshers hiring. I mean, it sounds a bit like a crystal ball gazing, so it won't be in that sense about predictions. But I thought we will just have this discussion around where we are right now, what are we doing now, what are the challenges, and what are the changes that is happening, and how we need to look at things differently. At the outset, as background and context, I want all of us to do a mental pause here and remember that we were all freshers once. It's perhaps the one thing that all of us have in common here. So that we look at this whole question from a position of empathy. Over the years, from the time we transited from campus to work, we acquired skills, qualifications, experience, and we are where we are. Some of us have built companies, some of us have helped our companies grow, and some of us have led them. And in this journey, somewhere, the whole freshers question, I'm not saying for all, for some, have gone into the background because we are all more than managers or leaders. We are all, our primary occupation is firefighting. So in the, what should I say, under the pressure of the urgent, this important aspect has been submerged. When I finished college from REC Calicut long back in 1984, the process of hiring I got my first job with a company called PCL. It was an HCL spin-off. And the process of hiring was an aptitude test, group discussion, a tech interview, and an HR interview. And the CVs were filtered based on marks, and the company went to the so-called better colleges. I don't think much has changed in the last 36, 37 years. For a function as critical as talent acquisition, we are following pretty much the same method with some variations. I think all of us have been lazy about this. The kind of innovation that we have been bringing in other parts of our organizations, other functions of our organization, we have not brought it here. Maybe because we think, why fix something that is not broken? Now the question is it not broken? Let us just reflect on, into our own teams. How many people do we have in our team for whom our company was the first job? And as a subsidiary question, how are they doing professionally in their careers as members of the team? So maybe if we reflect a bit on this, we will get a few insights and a few thoughts. If you look at business now, especially the IT business, since we are a group into the IT business. On the business side of things, customer expectations have changed over the years, and they keep changing every 4 or 5 years. If you compare, I mean, it's a very what should I say, incremental change. So we may not see it on a day-to-day basis, but if we thin slice it at 5-year intervals, we can see major changes in customer expectations. More and more projects are moving to outcome-based rather than effort-based. There is pressure on margins. There is pressure on margins. And competition is increasing. All of us are aware competition is increasing. And not just within India, within our known community, but competition is also coming from other places. And I think every business leader is aware of this and watching this closely. Like, for example, countries like Vietnam, Philippines, Sri Lanka, and even Bangladesh are likely to become, threats to varying degrees. So I don't think there's any room for complacency there, especially if we are not adding value and we are going beyond the cost arbitrage in our business model. There are challenges. And I'm not even talking about the pandemic kind of challenges, which we will look at a little later. So while this is happening outside on the business side, on the client side, let's look at the talent. In this case, we'll just focus on the freshers. So the freshers that we are talking about now are what we call Gen Z or Generation Z or Generation Z, the last letter of the alphabet. Typically, they're born in the mid-90s, and they're getting into work right now. They're all digital natives. They were born into a digital world, quite different from most of us here. They're all very smart. We hear about how 20 years back there were a lot, the talent was very good, and the quality, yeah, that's the word we hear, right? quality of freshers are very good, and now it is, it's very poor and all that. We keep hearing. I'm not so sure. Yes, there's been a dilution because 20 years back there were 7 engineering colleges in Kerala. Now there are about 135. So to that extent, there is a dilution. But if you look at that time, there were, maybe 3,000, 4,000 engineers passing out every year versus 30, 40,000 now. But if you look at the 3,000 then and the 3,000 now, top 3,000, I think the present day engineers are way ahead, way ahead than those that were 20 years back. In the sense, in terms of awareness, in terms of self-assuredness, in terms of confidence, and many other qualities which are, I think, important in the workplace. So one thing I think all of us need to be careful about is that this generation, this generation of digital natives, they will see through any patronizing gimmick that we plan or any empty words. Right? So I don't think they can be, misled or conned in that sense. I was reading a few weeks back about a study by SHL. SHL is the company that is taken over Aspiring Minds, which does the AMCAT assessment. So they did a study on 2,600 graduates across many countries and tracked them for about 2 years. And the study just came out in the beginning of 21. So, I think 1920 is when they were tracking these people. And one of the things that came out of the study, which I thought was a shocking number, is that 62% of them felt that their first job was not the right job for them. 62%. Now that's more than 1 in 2 gone wrong. If you look at it from a probability point of view, it's a lower probability than the toss of a coin, right? So we might as well recruit by tossing coins. So I think there are, this points out to a lot of things in terms of, what we are communicating to a target recruit about the company, about the job, how well we are understanding them, how well we are understanding the fit. So all this has come, the questions are raised on all this. The other major change which we are seeing across, and especially so in Kerala, if you look in the Indian context, is the impact of the startup culture in colleges. Even though a youngster has not started a startup or have worked in a campus startup, they have friends who are either part of a startup or have been doing the startup. And, they meet outside over, in a coffee shop or wherever the youngsters meet. And they talk. And this whole entrepreneurial thinking, which I think is which I'm sure everyone will agree is a primary, is a premium quality that we would look for to drive growth of our companies, is higher in the campuses now than any time previously. And maybe, that's something that we need to think about as to how we can attract, manage, and nurture the entrepreneurial spirit of the fresher in our environments to grow, to become, to get to a win-win where, the company is benefited, the individual feels more fulfilled, and so on. So coming back to, how we do the fresher hiring, right? We do the aptitude test and interviews and tech tests and all that, which is, slightly incremental to what happens in the normal academic world. So again, if we look at the various studies of what employers are looking for from freshers, from new employees, right from World Economic Forum to various other agencies like maybe, what Team Lease has done or what SHL has done. or what different agencies have done, a few things have come in common, which I think all of us can relate to. One, I'm just talking about some of the skills or attributes or abilities here. One is working in a cross-functional team and to solve a problem. So that's a skill that we want in everyone. The ability to learn a new skill or technology or an application through self-directed learning, without having to, be spoon-fed or trained within course. Building relationships with an unfamiliar team, right? So it could be a physical team, it could be a virtual team, whatever. So how do you build relationship with those in that kind of an environment? Pick up a project at short notice with very limited briefing, right? This is, especially in smaller companies, we have all seen this happen. And then sometimes, take on management responsibilities, maybe some colleagues, the sudden attrition, and then you need to do all that. And then maybe looking at working with people from a different culture. So how do we do that? So these are the kind of skills that we are looking at the workplace, or we need at the workplace. Whereas our hiring process, if you look at a JD, I hope I'm not being too critical here. I'm also very much part of this system. We say this person should have got X marks in 10, Y marks in 12, Z marks in the degree, and no arrears and all that, which we think is some kind of an ideal individual to do that. Now, if we ask ourselves that, so that way, if you look at it, people like Larry Ellison or Bill Gates or Steve Jobs and all, none of them will even qualify to apply to our companies, right? So, what we are looking at are the kind of skills that we mentioned, and what we are looking at is the 10th marks, 12th marks, engineering marks. So academics, as we know, while we are using it as a filter, and we rationalize to ourselves that that's the only way we can filter from the numbers and all that. But I think we have to find a better solution to, get that kind of, go beyond this in terms of identifying the kind of talent that we want. The other thing that we need to remember is the inequality in this whole thing that we are looking at, especially if you look at engineering. The admission into engineering is not, or the process of admission, the mechanism, as we all know, is not always, it's not assessing the aptitude of the individual for engineering. It's become like a gaming of the system, where your economic situation gives you a very unfair advantage, right? So like if you can go and spend 2 years with, I will not name anyone, say Pala or some other place after your 10th, and if your parents can take care of that, and you go through that process where you learn how to beat the system, how to crack the exam. And then you have an advantage of how to to get into a better college, get a better rank, and so on. And that is something that that's something that that's something that we need to look at. Now, coming to what's what is happening now, right? To the way that we are looking at colleges. One of the trends that is emerging, one of the ways people are looking at hiring now is to map competencies to the challenges that they are facing in the workplace. So that requires us to do a fair amount of homework, to look at different roles, what specifically are the challenges in those roles, and to map it to the competencies there. We are going to, many of us are going to the same colleges every year, so which makes it difficult for us to scale, because it's the same colleges where everybody is going, and and then it's a little bit of an artificial scramble there, and it's not, and therefore many organizations are now trying to take the bias out of this process, to give more equal opportunities across the table, across the ecosystem. For example, if you are a TCS, we could afford to do that. Like, they now have, 3 or 4 exams every year, and anyone from anywhere in the country can apply for that and get that. So they're not, the pool that they're choosing from is not limited to, the X number of colleges that they can go to. It's not that they've not tried that system. They've tried that system, but they found this. This is the system that the public sector companies have been following for the last 40 years. But smaller organizations, we cannot exactly follow that route. But I think as organizations, we should really look at how we can broad base the talent pool from which we can find talent. The other thinking, when we speak to some of the HR leaders in the industry, one of the things, on this very specific topic, one of the things that come up is that the lateral hiring, right? Lateral hiring to get the right person is much more difficult than getting a right fit fresher, the right kind of a fresher, and then grooming that person over the years, nurturing that person, and getting him or her to that level. But while this is understood mostly, but somehow the again, the urgent needs that we are all fighting, the firefighting that we are doing, is making us get to this point where we take the shortcut of lateral hire as the engine for growing our organization. So and I think there is a price that we are paying there on organizational culture building. It's a bit of an intangible here, but all of us know that that is something that is really critical for growth, for to distinguish us from the rest. On top of that, if we look at the current trends that are happening in the world to gig workers, people who get into a project, execute that project for that period of that project, and then they're out, they're freelancers. And we look at the pandemic imposed work from home model. At one level of functionality of an individual, now it's not very different from a gig worker. And I think it's important to recognize, it is being recognized all across, because this person is not coming to office, has not come to the office for the last 1 year, and may not come to the office for the next few months or next few years. So, but then, we will still need to engage with them. So it's brought its own challenges. So it's almost like we are working in a gig economy at a higher percentage than we are formally working in a gig economy. So this is something I think has a bearing on how we look at freshers and the the lateral hires and how we do the entire talent management piece. The other element on talent acquisition, before we really look at some of the innovative approaches, is the cost of fresher hiring and a cost of a mistake there. So the cost of fresher hiring, I think, is something that I think all of us need to look at it very closely in terms of what, okay, acquiring the talent is just one part of the cost. The training, getting them to a certain productivity level, what is the cost of all that? And if they figure out this is not the right job for them and they go, what is the cost of that? And what's the cost of hiring a wrong individual? So if we look at all that, I think we will probably pay a little more attention to the fresher hiring part. So like I mentioned here, some of the ways in which this situation is being addressed, we are seeing emerging trends in these areas. One is, like I said, widening the candidate pool. Use platforms, use other agencies, whatever, to access a much larger pool of talent, which itself will, improve your chances of finding the right talent. Then to create targeted talent development program. So this is again, so the first thing that that one is seeing is that there is no shortcut, short-term solution to this. Most of these things that we'll be discussing here are medium to long-term engagement is required. To create a targeted talent development program, like what is the kind of talent that you need in terms of skills, etc. So engage with that talent much earlier, not when the just one visit to the campus when people are already in their 8th semester and choose the best that you got and give them a date to come and all. Going beyond that, can we engage with them earlier in some way and look at a targeted talent development program? See, one of the initiatives of this type, which is working quite well in another industry, in the banking and financial services industry, is the self-funded skilling model. I'll give you an example of a program that Axis Bank is doing with the Manipal Group. So here, what they're saying is this. So this is a fintech job in the company, and it's a very rigorous screening, hiring, recruitment process. So after the person is selected, they go through a 18-week course, including a live project, etc., and specifically on what is required by the company. And this program is conducted by Manipal, for which they have to pay a fee. Now, why it is still attractive is, after the program, if they successfully complete the program, they will get into a level which is 2 levels above the entry level. For example, the specific program I'm talking about, Axis Bank is offering something like 8 lakhs per annum to a fresher, right? So of course, being a bank, they give an educational loan for this program so that there is no out-of-pocket payment required. And there are some other organizations where this particular fee that is paid for this course is given as a retention bonus at the end of 2 years. There are a lot of innovative models. So what is happening there is, one is that the cost of skilling and the time required for skilling, all that is taken out of your cost, and you're getting somebody in a ready to deploy in a plug and play kind of a mode. So this is a model that maybe as an industry we could look at some point in time if it makes economic sense. The other is, again, to do with, longer term engagement, to look at internship in a more detailed, more, what should I say, more involved way. Whether is there any way by which we could work with interns in a virtual, today virtually it is possible, virtual interns, who can, be with us, say from the time they are in their pre-final year, they work for 6 months or 8 months on a project. So we know them, they know us, etc., etc. And as an employer, we have the first right of refusal of that talent. This is a win-win in the sense you are not going blind in your selection. You observe this person over a period of time. Even if that, from the individual point of view, even if that person is finally not selected in your company, this internship experience is of great value for that person to get another job somewhere else. The other, another element that I think companies are working on and investing in is in their branding with the target employer group, fresher groups, and being digital natives, digital is the way to go. And there are many innovative examples how companies are able to highlight what is unique about them. There are many small companies doing fantastic work, as all of us know, and very innovative work, which really talented people would like to work there only if they knew that such an opportunity existed. So using these platforms, that branding is something that could be done. Then the recruitment process itself, can we look at, okay, I mean, we are now, many of us are looking at hackathon kind of a thing to identify talent for, coding and all that. But maybe we could look at, creating tools to assess their problem solving abilities, for example, and whatever other skills that we are looking for. And not always, I mean, see, the easy option or soft option is to do the psychometric assessments, but they'll give you pointers. But I think talent is far more nuanced than what can be taken from a test. So towards this, the other question that I think we need to ask ourselves is, how are we training our recruiters, especially the fresher recruiters? How are we training them? I mean, do we recognize that it is a specialized role? Are they equipped to identify the right talent? Even after the assessment, in the interviewing process, are they actually projecting the right image? And it's a very important branding exercise as well, because the interview experience will be shared across, it can go viral. It will be shared across many people. So in terms of how does your company come across, the transparency of that process, the innate intelligence in that process. So how are we looking at all that? So these are some of the trends that we are seeing, and like many other things that have happened, I think this whole talent acquisition, it's already beginning to happen. It's happening big time in right now in lateral hiring, where it is considered as a specialization and outsourced to agencies for selecting and onboarding and all that at the lateral level. But fresher level, we are trying to do it ourselves. So one of the trends that we are seeing is, which even TeamLease is seeing, is that outsourcing of this is going ahead. So this is broadly what I had wanted to share. And before I take questions, Vishnu had shared with me some of the questions that had queries that people had posted along with the registration. and let me just have a look at them. So one is, one question was about the impact of the pandemic on campus hiring and training. Yes, the impact has been there, especially for, from a college point of view, the, what is sometimes, cruelly called the tier 2, tier 3 colleges. The so-called tier 1 colleges, there has not been much impact in terms of absolute numbers of placement or average CTC, which are the metrics they follow. But there has been a significant impact on onboarding. There is a lot of deferment of onboarding because many companies felt that, especially for freshers, the induction program, onboarding program has to be face to face, and people have been waiting, and now people are looking at different ways of doing that. Training is a lesser of a problem in the sense, online training has now become pretty much the default standard, and and many organizations, many training organizations have come up with innovative ways of doing that and engaging the students. So that is going on. That's going on quite well. I don't think it's much of a challenge area for many companies and people who have been hired. But but this whole campus to corporate transition that we talk about, and which is a very critical transition and needs the supporting mentoring, which helps the individual to fully understand what the company is doing. And a lot of it happens by just seeing and observing others, the water cooler conversations, and all that. So all that is missing, and that even for a mid-level, junior level person, it's a big challenge. So for the fresher, it's a very big challenge. So to that extent, that impact is what is being reported across. Another query was about the work from home productivity for smaller companies. It's been up and down. Is from what we have. We actually, did a little survey with a few companies some time back on employee engagement. How was productivity impacted? It varies from company to company. Varies on the metrics. The nature of work that they do. But I think over a period of time, the distractions at the home is higher, and there is a clear gender dimension to this. Working from home, from whatever inputs that we've got and what we've heard, is much harder for women, because of our culture, for want of a better word. The demands at home are much higher than it is for men. So that impacts and increases the stress levels and therefore productivity. But of course, everyone is finding ways around that to manage and all that, but it is there. Which leads us to another query that we had about, engagement and motivation. I think, engagement and motivation, are linked to each other. I think the first thing would be that the individual should really find the work meaningful. If you don't find what you're doing to be meaningful to you, it's very difficult to be motivated. Whoever it is, at whatever level it is, whether you're trying to, climb Everest or, doing whatever coding that you're doing, it has to have meaning to you. So how successful are we? How effective are we in establishing that meaning? And especially we are talking about for the fresher, who's coming from a student paradigm to here, and thus motivating him, and also periodic engagement, like know that that person is supported, there is understanding, empathy, all those things are there. So I think that's the route, and also some group activities, some fun activities. See, it's very hard for a youngster to be, stuck at home in a lockdown, cannot socialize and all that. It's really, really hard. And so I think as organizations, we need to, find some way to add some fun into the way work happens. Some group activities, and also, some activities related to wellness, both physical and mental wellness. If the company can take initiatives in those areas and come across as caring, I think that will have an impact on motivation, engagement, and yeah. And another question was on commitment. Well, I think that's a derivative. It's a two-way street. I think if a fresher or if any individual is not committed, maybe there is something on both sides impacting the commitment. So, which again, I think you have to see it holistically, looking at engagement and motivation. Yeah, another question was about fresher retention, and especially after making the investment in training. This is felt across. Only sometimes it is articulated. You feel bad, after you put somebody through a training program and invested that, and then that person leaves. And if a few of them leave after that, you feel you feel let down, betrayed, and all that. But if you do a root cause analysis of that, one of the things that we, one of the areas, one of the causes could be in terms of selection of the candidate itself. Is it the right candidate for the kind of role that you had in mind? Was the training meaningful? Did it fit into that person's long-term plans? Or was that the right person culturally fitting for your organization? And was there a total transparent communication and managing of expectations, and understanding of what this is all going to be? What is the expectation from both sides? In a one-on-one engaged manner with that individual. So all these things will come into place, and we have seen both. Where some cases where the retention has been phenomenal, and some cases where it's been a big challenge. So maybe a little bit of introspection there will help. Then there was a question about there is another retention challenges. One is, of course, the challenge of retention after somebody joins and all that. The other is retaining candidates who have accepted offers. Well, that's a really difficult one. Again, I think a lot of it points to how the selection of the candidate itself, and building that rapport and building that trust mutually on that. And there's another question, the last one, on how to build trust. Well, trust is not easy to build. It's not difficult also to build. We in our life experiences, personal, social, professional, we have found, all of us know it when we see it or when we do it, about trustworthiness. So if we are trustworthy generally, if we we are a kind of a person where, what you see is what you get, then I think it is more often than not reciprocated, and people have an innate ability to sense trust or sense trustworthiness by and large. So I think, again, it's not all about technique. I think it's about being genuine, being transparent, being empathetic, and communicating in an open, clear, and transparent manner. So yeah, so this is what I had, and this is my response to some of the queries that had come up. So now I'll throw it open to the group for any comments, anything that you would like to share or discuss.
So if you have any questions now, we can directly unmute and ask Subhash. So there is a question from Bindu, Subhash.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on the chat window. Yeah. Well, that's a hard one. Compete with, that's why the whole branding importance is there. See, there are two ways. It comes with engagement. I think if we can, engage with, your target pool of talent a little earlier. Maybe understand, maybe in your organization, the nature of work you do itself could be more challenging than what they would do with a company that has got 200, 300,000 people. For some people, the learning path may be more important than, the brand of your employer. So we need to identify those kind of people. Maybe in our organization, the career path is better or faster. Maybe 5 years down the line, the person might be in a better place than, had, they joined maybe a very large company. I don't know, that it depends on on your specific company. And I think, if we really look at your strengths and, communicate that, and, and if that individual and the company can grow together, and, that individual is important to the company, there are a lot of advantages a small company has actually. And more, youngsters are, wanting to work in smaller companies. I will not name the companies, but I recently read a survey of, what is a dream job, right? Of course, so all the usual suspects are there, the Googles and Facebooks and all that with, with those big salaries. But you will find some very surprising companies in the dream job category. It depends, based on the kind of work, and it's not that they're paying any huge salaries or anything like that. It's just one of the factors, but the nature of work, where they can go, and and some of the colleges, some of these youngsters are also looking at is there a if the company grows, if there is an upside, is there something for us, because they all know what's happening in the valley. They read, they learn about ESOPs, so all that is there. So I think we can be innovative here and see how we can attract and retain talent.
I have a doubt. Myself, Abhilash.
Yes, Abhilash.
Yeah, thank you. During this pandemic situation, how is it possible to hire a candidate? Because when we want to hire a candidate, especially the fresher, he or she is supposed to be in their office, Then only the lead can do something with them. So in this pandemic situation, it is not possible to call them to the office. So in this particular situation, how is it possible to hire a candidate?
Yeah. So thank you, Abhilash. I think this is something that has been agitating all of us. So one is I think we have to reconcile to the fact that face-to-face meeting and working in an office together itself is going to be a really big challenge unless it is somebody who is hyper local, like who's living within, a two-wheelerable distance of your office. So the hiring process itself will have to be virtual. So you'll need to, use some of the platforms to get, to access a wider pool of talent. I think it's very difficult as an individual company for us to access talent, because that itself is a specialization. Maybe we'll know one college, two college, and by now they may the current batch is passed out, most of them have been placed, they are not coming to college, so the placement officer can at best put it in a WhatsApp group or in their social media group about this opportunity. So there are organizations that are aggregating talent across, so maybe connect with them and give the requirement, and maybe they could present some candidates. You could use social media or some of the job boards to look for the talent. But I think today I think over the last year, practically, except for maybe a few weeks or months in between, which were like the cloud moving away from the sun on a cloudy day. Rest of the time, everything has been happening remotely. People are interviewing, doing the assessment remotely, interviewing remotely, group discussions remotely, offers given remotely, and they start working from home only. So if our work is such that we cannot have somebody working from home, I really don't see a solution, Abhilash. I think we will probably need to wait out the pandemic.
Thank you. Because from the perspective of a company, the productivity is very important. No? So when we hire a person, we always look for a productivity. So when we hire a person, if you are not getting a productivity, that will also affect us in one way or other.
Yes.
So that's why I asked. Because for example, for this week I have to hire somebody, but because of this lockdown, I postponed it. So this is the thing. From the perspective of a company, I have to think that, okay, how can I increase the productivity of the company? That's why I asked. Anyway, thank you for your answers. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Abhilash.
Yes, Subhash, Vishnu here. So this is related to the attitudinal issues. Okay. So since freshers enter their workplaces directly from their academic environments, quite often the transition is not smooth. Okay.
Yes.
So from that, the lack of awareness regarding workplace etiquette to unrealistic expectations regarding the roles, and from lack of exposure to a collaborative environment to inability to meet deadlines. So these are like similar to this. There are many reasons why several freshers find it difficult to adapt to the demands of their workplaces. So this is actually a major issue, like many of the companies are facing while doing a hiring or doing a placement drive in a colleges and all. So what would be your thoughts on this?
No, see, my sense is if you look at some of the other countries, how this campus to corporate transition happens, and even here also in some cases, I think internship is probably one route to get around this, where where the industry plugs in a win. See, the challenge here, even when we spoke to some of the companies and colleges and all that. In principle, everyone is happy about internship, but internship is a high touch, high demand on time of the manager of the interns, and most companies are stressed. Where everyone is, people are busy and they're doing their stuff and they don't. But then if we do it without that high touch engagement, internship is not effective. But if we can somehow find a way, or work with a partner and manage that internship where even some of the outcome of what these interns do is of use to the organization. What is very loosely called as a live project. Some parts of that if these interns can do, so then have periodic interaction. So it's got to be there's an organization, there is a mentoring of the intern layer and the intern. So if these three pieces can be harmonized, I think that's one way to get out of it. And I think the universities are aware. If you look at the Anna University in Tamil Nadu, they give pretty much an entire semester out where students can go, pre-pandemic they would go work in companies. Now they can do virtual internships. That can be done. That is one. I think that is one way to do this in scale.
Yeah, that will work out. Like if you see here in many of the universities, like for example KTU and MG University and all, so how they provide is like they used to include internship in their curriculum. So that is like a period for very limited, like for say around 1 month, 2 months and all. So that
Yes.
will not actually suffice.
That will not help.
Yeah, that will not suffice. So what we are actually pushing is like as an industry body, like while we are providing internship, so it should be at least a period of time for around 4 to 6 months and all. Then
Yes.
only like what you suggested, it will be like a meaningful thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think as colleges and students will be very happy for that, because the kids are dying to get an opportunity to do something beyond the academic.
Correct. So now the things are getting changed. Thank you.
I think
Subhash.
yeah. I'm just
Subhash,
reading a couple of.
this is Rajesh. There is one thing which I've noticed. Now what is happening is large companies, they are hiring freshers from the campus and they're giving offer for 3 years. I mean, it's not a contract, but they are actually
Yeah.
giving the offer. And first year they are defining a salary, and then when the offer goes itself, they are defining the salary for the next 2 years as well.
Yes.
So it is an offer letter going out for 3 years, which what is going to get the salary for the second year and the third year.
Yes.
So I think that is little getting into little success. That's what I feel.
That is it's a double-edged sword. So in the sense, it also defines an outer limit, right? So so the incentive for the Superman performance, maybe a little less that way. So I think I just saw one query from Sneha here from Future Mug on the chat about the responsibility of the bigger brand companies to give opportunities and mentor students from tier 2 and 3 colleges. I totally agree with you. I think if the companies can look at this as a, I think that they are doing certain things. TCS has things like the EON and all that, where they are looking at getting involved in skilling and all that. But yes, but I think definitely more can be done. And then Prashant was asking about are there end-to-end solutions where can be used for hiring, including facilities for test interviews, machine tests, training and onboarding. Yes, there are solutions. I mean, maybe using combinations of things based on what exactly that is required. There are solutions. So maybe we can get in touch offline after this and can have a discussion on that, Prashant. There is a question from Litty John, about what the students are looking out from prospective employers. Well, I think first thing they're looking at today is, to do something, meaningful. Will get them that, whatever are there, to meet their financial aspirations and some kind of a growth path. I think pretty much that's what generally youngsters are looking at, and which are quite easy to fulfill. I don't think that is the challenge there really. Yeah, there is another question. I think we have a student in here, Abhijit, and he's saying that he's a fresher, and how can a fresher get a job in today's condition? Well, Abhijit, I think, because of fate, yeah, one is because of the fate, I think, or, act of God or whatever we can call, you have passed out in the wrong year. So I think the important thing is to have patience. This has been a very difficult year, not only for you, for everyone in the world. The opportunity, but then I think, as a digital native, I think you should scout around the digital space. There are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities that are there, and we can, you can surely find opportunities for you. You can get in touch with me later offline, and we'll see how we can help you once we know what you've graduated in and what are your interests.
I think, Subhash, we can take one more question.
Okay.
So there's a question from Litty John.
Yeah. See, one of the common trends in retaining freshers is by asking them to sign a bond for 2 years or more. This is a good practice. This is a practice. I don't think it is for any of us to judge whether there is a good practice or a bad practice. Because there are pros and cons to it. If there are investments made by the company, they would want to protect it, and that could be the reason. But personally, in my about close to 30 years in entrepreneurship, we have not had this system in our company because we found this is not. We evaluated it and felt that this is not something that we would like to do. Okay, just one last query, I think, from Shamna on the learning curve of a BTech fresher. Well, I think if you're talking about campus to corporate transition, it's going to be a very, very steep learning curve. You have an opportunity to, it's like getting into a different world, different planets sometimes. So it'll be very interesting if you look at it with a positive attitude of a learner. It will be a great experience. So thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed the interaction. Yeah, thank you, Vishnu.
Yeah,
and
thank you. So, Subhash, on behalf of GTech and the member focus group, I would like to thank you and the whole Trinity team for arranging this session, and also it was very informative. And also, I would like to thank you all the participants who have joined and actively joined in this session. Thank you so much. Have a
Thanks,
good day.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.